always live. ABC7 News starts right now.
Ooh, that dog was like, what is up? And that Christmas tree got rattled, but it stayed standing when a 7.0 earthquake hit off the Northern California coast, triggering a tsunami warning that had some people in the Bay Area evacuating.
We're just out there surfing on a normal day, and then next thing you know, like, people are yelling at us, get out of the water, get out of the water.
Oh, yeah, what a day. Good evening, I'm Amma Dates.
And I'm Dan Ashley. Shaken homes, rattled nerves, it really has been something in Northern California today. Here's what you need to know. A big earthquake hit around 10:45 this morning, measuring 7.0. That's a major quake. It was off the coast of Humboldt County, and some shaking was even felt here in the Bay Area. The earthquake triggered a tsunami warning from Oregon down to Santa Cruz County, and some people in the Bay Area were evacuating to higher ground before that tsunami warning was canceled. That was about noon today.
Cities in Humboldt County, including Ferndale and Rio Dell, report some damage from the earthquake. A cracked road, a gas leak, broken windows, damaged roofs. Cameras recorded lots of shaking, like these cannabis plants in Humboldt. There are no reported injuries because of the quake. That is the good news here. Governor Newsom has declared a state of emergency.
Now, we have team coverage for you to give you a real understanding of the scope of what happened today. You're going to hear from ABC7 News reporter Ansar Hassan in San Francisco with a look at how people here reacted to the tsunami warning.
That's right. And ABC7 News meteorologist Sandy Patel has a look at the science involved in today's events.
That's all coming up. First, though, let's hear from ABC7 News reporter Cornell Bernard. He spent the day driving to Humboldt County. He is live from Rio Dell tonight. Cornell, how's it look there?
Hey, Dan and Amma. Well, first of all, a lot of people are taking a very deep breath tonight. Lots of frayed nerves here in the community of Rio Dell. People in Humboldt County know exactly where they were this morning around 10:45 when that massive 7.0 earthquake hit.
One big jolt, little bit of jiggle, lots of roll.
That's what it felt like to Rio Dell Mayor Pro Tem Amanda Carter. A quake so strong, it sent employees at City Hall running for cover and caused this large crack in Blue Slide Road, prompting the fire department to close the roadway to traffic. Luckily, no major damage or injuries reported, but the shaking seemed to go on for a very long time.
It went on for a solid 45 to 60 seconds is what it felt like to me. Of course, they always feel longer. But it like you've been drinking. That's what it felt like.
Downtown, this liquor store took a major hit from the quake. The owner tells us he lost about $5,000 worth of bottles. Glass is everywhere. The cleanup job certainly not over yet.
So what have you been doing all day then?
Just cleaning, throw the garbage, that's it all day.
In nearby Ferndale, they certainly felt the shaking Thursday morning. Many things on the shelves at Valley Grocery took a tumble onto the floor when the quake hit. The same goes for people's homes where stuff that wasn't secured fell down. Luckily, we're not hearing about any major damage or injuries. The owners of this wine shop were surprised to see that most of the wine on the shelves stayed put. Bottles which did fall didn't break.
We're all a little on edge because you never know when there's another one. I mean, it could be a week, it could be 10 days, it could be not at all. But when a big one like that rolls through, you're always on edge for a little while afterwards.
Yeah, no doubt. We have been hearing about broken water mains, broken water pipes. There was even a gas leak near an elementary school this morning here in Rio Dell. Luckily, everybody is okay. But no injuries and no major damage reported. That was certainly not the case 2 years ago when a 6.4 earthquake rolled through here. Lots of damage reported then. People feeling very lucky up here tonight. And we're live in Humboldt County. Cornell Bernard, ABC7 News.
And we are thankful for that. Cornell, thanks very much. Here's a look at the current PG&E power outage map. Right now, it's not so bad for the cities closest to the earthquake. Just a few hundred PG&E customers without power as we speak.
And let's take a look at the earthquake on a seismograph. It's that large red cluster of lines on the left side of your screen there, right above that cursor icon.
All right, we want to bring in ABC7 News meteorologist Sandy Patel.
Yes, for a better understanding of this earthquake. Sandia.
Yeah, and Dan and Amma, this was a major earthquake, a magnitude 7.0 off the Humboldt County coast. Let's take a look at the graphic here. Occurred 6 miles as far as the depth goes. It's 10:44 in the morning. This is an area that is seismically active. It was a strike-slip earthquake, and that's where the plates move horizontally. There have been 178 aftershocks. 5.0 has been the largest since that 7.0. The tsunami warning that was initially issued for the West Coast, the Bay Area, California, included obviously, was canceled at 11:54 a.m. So some people are asking, why did this happen? Initially, they thought it was a vertical movement of the plates. That would have triggered tsunamis, and that could have caused a lot of damage. But in this case, after reassessing, they figured out that it was horizontal movement, so the tsunami danger was over. But you always want to take it seriously. Lake County, around the same time in the morning, had smaller earthquakes. The magnitude was 4.3 for the largest one. The shake intensity map shows you the strongest part of the earthquake was felt right near the epicenter. The rest of us felt it across northern and even parts of central California, all the way to the Bay Area, but it was light to weak here locally. As we take a look at the fault lines, the San Andreas, the northern part of it runs all the way up to the Mendocino area. There are 3 plates that converge, known as the Mendocino Triple Point. The current wave heights are 5 to 7 feet. We would have seen some changes, some drastic changes, had tsunami actually occurred. Ama?
All right, Sandia, thank you so much for that. We will check back with you in a bit. Along the coast of the peninsula, hundreds of people decided to evacuate in the minutes after that tsunami warning was issued. ABC7 News reporter Tim Johns was in Half Moon Bay for us all afternoon. Here's how people reacted.
Yeah, guys, I can tell you the waters here along the coast of Half Moon Bay have calmed down a lot over the past couple of hours. But I can also say that earlier this morning, after that tsunami warning was issued, residents here wasted no time in heading for higher ground. Heavy traffic along coastal roadways in San Mateo County Thursday. After a 7.0 earthquake and subsequent tsunami warning earlier in the day, many residents in town along the coast evacuated.
But many of our residents started, driving out of Half Moon Bay. Highway 92 was bumper to bumper. Highway 1 was bumper to bumper.
At one point in Half Moon Bay, sheriff's deputies shut down a portion of Highway 1. Law enforcement urging people to get to higher ground.
We quickly brought more resources to the coast because we know that the vulnerability with tsunamis, and so we had other resources right at the ready to come.
One of those who evacuated was Barbara's fish trap employee, Pedro Zapata.
I called my wife and my daughter, and they said, no, we have to go. We're getting these notices. So we just went up to the highlands, and waiting.
Zapata tells us he and his colleagues had just opened the popular spot for lunch when the tsunami warning was issued. He says the restaurant's owner called staff and told them to shut down.
We were already open with a couple of customers inside, and we asked them that they had to go.
After the tsunami warning was canceled later in the day, we saw several people returning back into town and businesses reopening. And while the worst never materialized for these residents, the terrifying moments are ones they won't soon forget.
Unbelievable. When I got off of 280, I saw all these cars, and there were police cars and ambulances and fire trucks, and I thought something really serious is going on.
And guys, even though that tsunami warning has been lifted, the sheriff's office tells me they are still encouraging people to exercise caution, especially if they are coming down here near the coastal areas. I'm in Half Moon Bay. Tim Johns, ABC7 News.
And as people on the peninsula were evacuating, some were delayed by a crash involving a motorcycle. Sky 7 shows us the aftermath. You see a mangled motorcycle there in the middle of the intersection on Highway 1 in El Granada. It's still unclear what caused the crash, but the CHP says the motorcyclist was severely injured and is being treated at Stanford Medical Center. The crash blocked lanes for a time.
The San Francisco Zoo's proximity to the Pacific prompted officials to close that facility out of an abundance of caution because of the tsunami warning. As you can see in this video from Sky 7, there was no one to be found. The zoo issued a statement saying, quote, guests have been evacuated, animals secured, and staff have moved to higher ground. The Exploratorium also closed today, quote, for the safety of our visitors and staff. Here's a live look at the Exploratorium. This is the view from the roof of our ABC7 studios, by the way. It's right across the Embarcadero from our station at Pier 15. Mass transit was affected because of the earthquake and the tsunami warning. BART stopped all trains in the Transbay Tube, which is, of course, a standard response to any earthquake, just to make sure the tracks are okay. Muni switched back 8 routes that run along the coast and suspended service to Treasure Island, as well as the F Market streetcar line. Samtrans suspended coastal routes briefly, then reestablished them after the warning was canceled. Other transit agencies did not say they had any service effects. And the tsunami warning prompted the closure of the Great Highway in San Francisco and forced surfers from the water at Ocean Beach. And that's where ABC7 News reporter Unser Hassan is live with reaction and a response from emergency crews. Unser.
Yeah, Dan, good evening. You can see just how close these homes are to the coastline. We spoke to some residents who live 1 block from the beach. They say they were relieved to learn that the tsunami warning was canceled.
I need to disperse and start heading up right now.
The San Francisco Fire Department warning was clear. Get out after a tsunami warning was issued for California's coast.
We were actually at a farmer's market, and I said, well, let's get home and make sure that we're there at least.
Peter Paroli lives just 1 block from Ocean Beach. He says as time went by and the waves weren't getting bigger, he felt like things might be okay.
We have our go bags and everything ready to go and stuff like that. So we're prepared, but I immediately looked at everything I could find, and I could tell that, well, it might be 1 foot or 2 foot, and this is more than enough of a cliff and a berm to deal with that.
Thursday morning, a 7.0 magnitude earthquake was reported off the coast of Northern California, which prompted the tsunami warning. Some surfers were already in the water when the warning was issued. Jay LaViolette says surfing is part of his daily routine.
All along the beach, it was like a huge wave coming in, and not huge in that it was so high, but you could see a line that stretched across as far as you could see on the beach.
He didn't ignore the tsunami warning, but he says once in the water, he could sense that the water didn't feel that different, that he didn't feel any buildup, which would have been associated with a tsunami.
The only really noticeable thing was coming out and it's high tide, and then it looked way lower than it should be.
Throughout the morning, even before the warning was lifted, there was still a number of people who came out to see what was happening along the coast. There was a warning not to come close to the water, but you risked it?
I said a prayer, and I wasn't really sure, but I realized once I got here that if it was a safety issue, they would have probably had this blocked off and not allowed us to drive up in here, so.
And we have to tell you, it has been very safe out here. Police and fire have been monitoring the area all day, especially with all the extra people coming to check out the activity along the coast. Reporting live, Ansar Hassan, ABC7 News.
All right, Unser, thank you for that. And in the North Bay, Sonoma County warned the tsunami was expected to arrive at 11:45 a.m. It told people to stay away from the coast and rivers, but that widespread inundation was not expected. Now, Marin County warned the tsunami was expected to hit around noon. It told people to evacuate if they were on the beach or near the coast, or at least get to higher ground or a higher floor of a building if possible.
In the East Bay, the Berkeley Police Department issued an evacuation order for West Berkeley. It listed possible tsunami zones as the Berkeley waterfront, I-80, of course, Aquatic Park, and other areas. Emeryville police kept evacuations optional. We turned our Emeryville tower camera to look at the bay this morning and started recording just in case there was a tsunami. We wanted to make sure to capture that for you. As you can see, the water stayed very calm. And in Oakland, one school was asked to evacuate. That's Prescott. The elementary school is located in West Oakland, not far from the Port of Oakland.
We jumped on the air early this morning, soon after the earthquake hit, and we stayed on late to cover the tsunami warning and impacts here in the Bay Area. When breaking news happens, you will find us on TV, on ABC7News.com, and on the ABC7 Bay Area app, anywhere you stream.
Still to come on ABC7 News at 6, what's being thrown out in hospital trash cans that could become a legal case.
Plus, a positive update on progress on that sewage leak in the East Bay that's been leaking 1 million gallons of wastewater per day.
Whoa, this morning's earthquake really rocked this house in Fortuna in Humboldt County. The cats went running. Fortuna is less than 50 miles from the epicenter of the quake, which had a magnitude 7.0. That's a major quake, as you've heard. Our Bay Area coastline was at risk after that earthquake in Humboldt County triggered a tsunami warning. That happened just before 11 a.m.
Yeah, around noon, the tsunami warning was canceled. There were no big waves and no earthquake damage in the Bay Area. But there was a slight rise in the water level in the bay. A man walking around noon near the Fort Mason Yacht Harbor recorded this video of boats swaying back and forth. He says the water level rose almost 2 feet.
There was a jingle of all the sailboat masts going. It sounded like bells out here, so I came over and saw the waves, and the boats were really rocking, the masts were going. It was fairly dramatic.
But none of the boats appear to be damaged.
Governor Newsom issued a state of emergency declaration for 3 counties affected by the quake: Del Norte, Humboldt, and Mendocino.
Our teams are working collaboratively with the teams on the ground, and I just want to thank everybody, particularly our local law enforcement agencies. It's another reminder of the state that we live in and the state of mind that we need to bring to our day-to-day reality here in the state of California in terms of being prepared for earthquakes.
The order provides extraordinary powers to police immunity for emergency actions, and is a prerequisite for requesting federal assistance if that's necessary. So this is critical.
President Biden has been briefed on the earthquake and is promising any federal assistance. A White House statement reads in part, quote, senior administration and FEMA regional officials are in touch with their state and local counterparts in California and Oregon. We stand ready to provide further support as needed. At this point, though, there have been no requests for federal assistance.
In Santa Cruz, harbor residents are back home in their boats after being evacuated by the tsunami warning. The warning did not extend to Santa Cruz. It stopped at Davenport. That's about 10 miles north. But we talked with a resident who says the power was cut by the harbor master as a precaution. He says the harbor called him to tell him to prepare to evacuate his 40-foot sailboat.
Typically, I stay with a boat on anything. But when she called, it gets you to thinking, well, maybe I should probably go ahead and go to high ground. So I just got in my truck and went up to the cliffs and watched the water and saw everything was okay, and then checked my phone and saw that the governor had released the warning, and here I am.
He says he's thankful. The only thing he lost was a couple of hours of his time. Back in 2011, Santa Cruz did get damaged by a tsunami. Remember this? That's the video you're watching here. A quake in Japan triggered a tsunami that brought a 2-foot wave to the Santa Cruz harbor. It caused $100 million in damage.
Can't believe that was 2011.
I know.
It doesn't feel that long ago. Well, 2 years ago, in December of 2022, a magnitude 6.4 earthquake caused major damage to the Ferndale area of Humboldt County. It caused 2 deaths, damaged water and power systems, and left at least 30 homes with so much damage that they weren't safe to live in. The pro tem mayor of Rio Dell talked with ABC7 News reporter Cornell Bernard on our 4 p.m. news about what an impact it had.
The earthquake of December of 2022 devastated this community. People always ask, when is the big one going to be here? And for the people of Rio Dell, that earthquake was the big one. This one, I think what we're getting is a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder type stuff. That earthquake was so bad, it left a lot of people very, very scared and terrified. And I think I've talked to a lot of people today who are just feeling the resurgence of those feelings.
Yeah, it's understandable. The epicenter of today's quake was off the coast, out in the ocean. Check out the swinging chandelier at this home in Eureka, also in Humboldt County. This video from a driver was also recorded in Eureka. Look at the traffic lights above West Avenue. They're just swaying back and forth, up and down, moving all over the place. And this Eureka home's Ring camera was recording when the earthquake struck. See that dog come out of the room? What is happening? You see the shaking lasts for several seconds. Pets, both the cat and the dog, just take off. The Christmas tree ornaments all moving around. But it doesn't look like the quake was strong enough to make any of those ornaments fall off or anything fall down.
Yeah, it all looked like it stayed in place. Well, take a look at this backyard pool in Chico. Water was sloshing out onto the deck. This is about 250 miles away from the epicenter of the quake, keep in mind.
Dad, there's an earthquake happening. Look at the pool.
And this woman also lives in Chico. Take a look at the video she recorded of her backyard pool. She said she didn't even feel the shaking, but she could see the pool water moving like she'd never seen it do before. And pool water moving is one thing, but the big concern, of course, today was a tsunami, a massive wave in the ocean. Seismologist Lucy Jones joined us live on our 3 p.m. newscast to explain how tsunamis form and why today we were safe from one.
A tsunami happens because an earthquake changes the shape of the seafloor. And if the earthquake pushes the ground up and over the other side, then the water that used to be there has to go somewhere else, and that's the tsunami wave. In this earthquake, the ground moved sideways. It was a strike-slip earthquake, and that means that we didn't really change the shape of the seafloor much. So once we saw what's called the focal mechanism showing us it was a strike slip earthquake, we recognize that the chances of it having a damaging tsunami is very, very low. And even if it had been a thrust fault, a 7.0 isn't a very big fault. And the big tsunamis happen because you move a huge amount of water. NOAA's principle is that they warn at 7.5, and there's a couple of places like this one where they warn at 7. Quite why this is considered quite so dangerous, I'm not sure. But once they put out a warning, they will not cancel it until they've been able to confirm that there's no water, no wave showing up on any of their buoys. So you have that hour where people are dealing with the warning, and before they come and say, okay, actually it wasn't big enough to do it. But this is one of those ones that was just barely at the margin that they would have called an alert, and clearly they decided to.
Yeah, that's a lot of good info. So here's a recap of what the folks to our north went through this morning and how it impacted us here. At 10:44 a.m., that big earthquake hit off the coast of Humboldt County. Initially reported as 6.0, the USGS revised the magnitude to 7.0. Just 5 minutes later, 10:49 a.m., the National Weather Service issued a tsunami warning stretching 500 miles from Oregon almost to Santa Cruz. The tsunami was predicted to hit San Francisco at 12:10 p.m. People around the coastal areas of the Bay Area started evacuating and heading to higher ground as they needed to. But at 11:54 a.m., the tsunami warning was canceled because big waves had not, thankfully, materialized.
All right, let's move on to some other news tonight. There are several new details out of Butte County where a gunman shot 2 kindergarten students before taking his own life yesterday afternoon. The 5-year-old and 6-year-old students have been identified as Elias Wolford and Roman Mendez. They are both in critical but stable condition. The shooting happened at the Feather River School of Seventh-day Adventists near Oroville. Authorities have identified the gunman as 56-year-old Glenn Litton, but say he also went by several other names. They say the shooter had severe mental illness and a criminal history of identity theft and fraud, but nothing violent. Authorities believe he may have targeted the school because of its religious affiliation. Investigators say he was meeting with the principal about enrolling a student. Minutes later, gunshots. When deputies arrived, they found his body near the playground. Well, today a jury found Santa Clara's vice mayor guilty of leaking a civil grand jury report and then lying about it under oath. Prosecutors accuse of Anthony Becker of leaking the report, accusing several council members, including himself, of having an unethical relationship with the 49ers. Becker had maintained his innocence since he was first indicted in April of 2023. He could receive up to 4 years in prison when he's sentenced in January.
The show must go on, and it will, thanks to a new deal for those involved with San Francisco Ballet's Nutcracker. It is the first full day of deliberations for the jury in the Bob Lee murder trial. They got the case only yesterday. Lee was the founder of Cash App, who died after being stabbed last April in San Francisco. ABC7 News reporter Melanie Woodrow has been in court throughout the trial and has the latest.
Some curious moments here this afternoon. When jurors returned from their lunch break, they didn't immediately return to deliberations. We saw 11 jurors in the hallway and 1 juror in the courtroom for about an hour, possibly talking to the judge. Prosecutors, as well as 3 of the 5 defense attorneys, were called to court, but they weren't telling reporters much about what was happening. Defense attorney Sam Zanganeh only telling me the judge is maintaining the ship. These jurors will have to decide which theory they believe is supported by the evidence more. The prosecution's argument that Momeni stabbed Lee because he introduced Momeni's sister to a man who allegedly drugged her and grabbed her behind. Or the defense attorney's argument that Lee attacked Momeni in a drug-fueled rage after Momeni questioned why he wasn't spending more time with his family. The jury wrapped at about 4:20 this afternoon. They will not be deliberating tomorrow. Instead, they'll return on Monday. Reporting in San Francisco outside of the Hall of Justice, Melanie Woodrow, ABC7 News.
This afternoon, recalled Alameda County District Attorney Pamela Price walked out of the DA's office for the final time.
We love you, Pamela Price. We shall not be moved.
Staff lined up outside the building singing the protest hymn, "We Shall Not Be Moved," to show support. Price hugged them as she walked down the line. Alameda County voters recalled Price last month. Chief Assistant District Attorney Royal Roberts will become acting DA until the County Board of Supervisors appoints a successor. The process is moving forward to replace recalled Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao, with election results expected to be certified today. On December 17th, Oakland City Council is expected to formally accept the results. Then, current City Council President Nikki Fortunato Bass will become interim mayor. But she just won the race for a seat on the Alameda County Board of Supervisors, so next month she's moving on. In January, then, a new city council will be sworn in, and they will pick the next city council president, who will become the new interim mayor. A special election for a permanent replacement for Tao will not be held until mid-April.
Opening night for San Francisco Ballet's Nutcracker will go on as planned tomorrow. A labor dispute involving members of the American Guild of Musical Artists threatened the season. But today, the union announced it reached a tentative agreement with the ballet on a new contract. The deal still needs to be ratified, but performances will go on as planned. The union represents the dancers and stage managers. Also, new developments tonight with the broken sewage line in the East Bay that was spilling millions of gallons of wastewater. Crews were able to make an emergency repair and cap the leak near the Shore Acres pump station in Bay Point. The Delta Diablo Sanitation District says the broken line was discovered Monday and it was giving off quite the stench. The district says corrosion caused the pipeline to fail. Testing is being done to make sure the water is safe and nothing has damaged the environment.
All right, coming up next, to look at your weekend weather forecast. It's part of Sandia's 7-Day. Back in a moment.